topic tonight. And Lord, as the people come in, just Father, I pray that you will bless them in all the areas that you called them. In Jesus' name we pray.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
So welcome internet audience. We welcome you to House of Prayer Ministries, to our Bible study. Today is Thursday, June 6th. All right. So today we're going to talk about feelings. All right. Feelings. All right. Feelings. Okay. Now, I guess we all kind of know what feelings are, but I want to give a definition. Of course, this is like a Webster definition on the internet. And feelings. One definition is the function or power of perceiving by touch. So if you had a velvet dress on or if you had a silk shirt on, you could feel that, right?
Yeah.
All right. But we're not talking about feelings as touch. We're talking about different types of feelings. So it's right here. It says feelings of physical sensation not connected with sight, hearing, excuse me, a physical sensation not connected with sight, hearing, taste, or smell. And this is their definition. A particular sensation of this kind, a feeling, or to give an example, warmth or pain. And then the fourth definition they have, the general state of consciousness considered independently of particular sensations, thoughts, etc. So we're going to come up with our definition of feelings, and because it's really, really, really important. We have a lot of scriptures to get to. Hopefully, we can get to them all. But as you see here, and we can list some feelings. Okay. So first of all, let's have an example. All right. I think everybody has the feeling of embarrassment. Okay, is it? Nobody is. Okay, some of you never been embarrassed. Okay. Praise God. Praise God. Okay, all right. And so we have a group here today. We have a group here today. Carter, can you help me out? Can you put embarrassment there for me, please? And we're gonna write it down. So, yeah, embarrassment. Right on the feelings, make it kind of small. All right, okay, so wow.
Can I say something?
Yes.
No, it's EMB.
When I was a kid. When I was a kid.
When you were a kid.
Yes, when I were a kid.
What do you define as a kid?
Okay, when I was younger than 10.
Okay, all right.
When I was younger than 10, remember when my siblings used to have his and her friends over?
Yes.
And you guys
you don't have to tell
sing.
You don't have
They
to
made us sing Bible study stories, and made us sing in front of all of our friends. So trust me,
they loved it. They loved
I remember he was
That's
a good memory.
it.
Oh man, yes, in front of all of our friends.
So everyone in the audience, we have 8 people here. So I think next Thursday we're going to introduce everybody so people know the people you don't see, you can know the voice by the person. But I will do that next Thursday night. But anyway, we're talking about feelings, okay? And we're talking about one, everybody that has been embarrassed, okay? I believe some things will make one person embarrassed or another person, it won't make them embarrassed, okay? And so to give an example of embarrassment, like if I had a party, all right? And we'll have this special party, me and Pastor Elsa had a party, and then I invited everyone to come in. I said, well, this is going to be a special party. We're all going to take our shoes off, all right? And so, what if someone had a hole in their sock?
Oh, Lord. That's the truth.
They would be embarrassed, right? Some people would. Maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you would, right? But that could be an embarrassing moment, okay?
Yeah, but that was powerful. That was powerful.
Yes, and one thing I want y'all to do, okay? Because people are listening. When y'all speak up so that internet audience can hear me. Okay, go ahead.
Well, Sunday,
you know, coming to church. I have my flip-flops, so I put my dress shoes in my bag. And so I have 2 pair of dress shoes, one that's really old, that's kind of messed up. And so I bought some new shoes. And so when I went to grab my shoes, I grabbed a pair of the old and a pair of the new. And luckily it was one left and one was right. And so I brought them to church, and I was like, oh Lord, we can't go back. And so I said, I called Jenna. I said, Jenna, I can't get my shoes. I've already left mine. So I said, oh Lord, what am I going to do? And I told Pastor Ray. He said, put them on. They were both black with pointy toes. So I put them on. And I think the only person that kind of, I don't know if anybody, I don't know.
I saw it because I was in the front.
Yeah, so everybody
Yeah.
saw it. I wasn't embarrassed. I forgot all
I thought
about
it
it
was powerful.
through the whole service. And then after the service, Alicia, she asked me, she said, Pastor Alice, I was going to ask you where you got those shoes. They are nice. But you know, I was not embarrassed. I was not embarrassed one bit. I just, you know, I forgot all about that I had 2 different shoes on. But those that saw me, you know, hey, you know, it was okay. It was all right.
Okay.
But to some people, like you said, Pastor Ray, they may have been embarrassed
Or they may have been embarrassed big time.
to wear that. But,
And a lot of times I'll go ahead and ask questions. We're going to kind of jump into this so we can get to everything.
okay.
And that's a really good example because you really were not embarrassed. So, see, right here, we're talking about feelings. One thing that's going to be an event that calls for feelings. And in this event, you had 2 different shoes, right?
That's right.
And so you could have been embarrassed, but you were not. And one of the things we're going to talk about right here is and we won't write it down. Well, yes, we will. Put it here. There's a magnifier, all right? A magnifier. Now, let's say, Pastor, she was not embarrassed, and she's really mature, okay? Or let's say someone, when someone is doing their initial sermon, a lady is doing their initial sermon, and this is her first time coming, and then she brought 2 different shoes. You know, depending on who she is, she may be a little flustered, a little embarrassed, you know? And see, what happens is this. When we're talking about these feelings, and when we go and list a whole bunch of feelings here. But one thing we'll understand about feelings, they're magnifiers, like the depth of these feelings. So, like, there's one thing about being, let's say, we're going to write down some feelings, matter of fact, and I'm going to even ask you for some feelings. I have some written down, but let's see. Carlton, can you write down some feelings? So embarrassment is one. And what's another feeling?
Shame.
Shame, and I have that, shame. Okay.
Anger.
Anger, I have that too.
Discouragement.
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
You got to get it down first.
Oh, yeah. And you got it.
Okay.
Discouragement.
Discouragement. Okay. I have
Happiness.
disappointed, but discouragement. Okay.
Happiness.
I was going to say excited.
Yeah, excitement.
Excitement.
I was gonna say slow down. You can't wait.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh,
Y'all do one at a time. Okay, get time
I'm
right.
feeling
I'm feeling embarrassed.
Excitement.
excitement.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say sadness,
No, that's fine. Let's say happiness.
and let's put
Excitement.
fear after sadness.
We'll put happiness.
Oh yeah, Aaron had happiness.
Happiness.
And his joy.
Okay, and try to, but let's keep it like, if we can. Okay. Okay, fear,
Frustration. That's a good one.
fear.
Yeah.
And she said frustration. I have joy, but happiness is good for joy.
RATIO.
Can you feel love? Can you feel love?
Yes.
Love.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to say nervousness?
Huh?
Like feeling nervous?
No,
that's a good
I
one.
have nervous down here, so that's good. Nervous.
Uh-huh.
I have nervous. Anxiety is kind of the same thing.
Oh
So,
yeah.
but I got both of those. So,
What you say? Nervousness and what?
Oh, you asked
anxiety. Anxiety. It's
Oh.
kind of like nervous, but really, a little different.
You've got the
NERVOU.
VOUS, no R. And so I got disappointed, but you got discouragement, so they can be the same thing.
Yeah.
Another one is stress.
Stress. Yeah. It didn't. Okay, stress, frustration, all those are in categories.
Okay, then. So these are different types of feelings. Go ahead.
I know. Go ahead. I just had a question. That's all.
One thing, okay.
It's different.
So normally we'll, okay, thank you, Carlton. So one of the things we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about feelings, and we'll talk about maybe some of your examples. But one of the things is we want to have here is there's certain things, matter of fact, there's an event, okay? And Carlton, there's an event that will happen. So Pastor Alice, she brought 2 different shoes. That was the event, all right? So what causes the event, okay? And Carlton, can you put down, I'm just going to give the answers. God. It can be God inspired. God can cause an event.
Okay. That's really good.
All right. Okay. It can be an evil spirit can cause something to happen. Okay. Your environment. And I know everything is spiritual, but still, we'll say your environment. A person.
Okay. Yeah, can embarrass me.
Yeah. The world. And yourself. So this event can be caused, and there's other things too, but this event can be caused by all these different things, okay? We'll discuss that a little bit more. And the last thing, well, right here, there's magnifiers. So a magnifier is the depth. Now, has anyone ever felt sad?
Yes.
They felt a little sad,
Yes.
but have you felt really sad?
Yes.
Okay, so those things are magnifiers. So some things that can magnify this feeling is depth. I mean, Mike, let's say if you really studied for a test and you didn't make the grade you wanted to make, so you're a little sad, right? Well, let's just say a loved one passed away. Oh, that's a sadness that is deep, and so much more, you know what I mean? So this emotion you have, depending on the event, there can be a greater depth to the feeling, all right? And it magnifies it so much more.
That's right. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
For event, can time be one of the reasons for?
Yeah, you can put down time. Put down time.
Because for me, I felt like time. I was rushing. I didn't have enough time to get my shoes, and that might be self, though. I don't know, but it was more so time.
It's a circumstance, yes.
Yeah, circumstance.
Yeah.
That's right. I have a question.
Yes.
You know that column to the right of the emotion? Yeah. What did you say that one was for?
This is going to be the things that magnify.
The magnifier. Okay,
Magnifiers.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and give you the magnifiers. Depth.
Now you say death or depth?
Depth.
Okay.
D-E-V-T-H. D-E-P-T-H.
Right.
Depth.
Yeah.
D-E-P-T-H.
That's right.
Yeah, because there's a greater depth. You care more about your loved one than you do about the test. So when that sadness comes, there's a greater depth to that. All right. Another one is your maturity. Pastor Alice. Pastor Alice is where she is right now. But let's say when she was 14 years old, or 12, if she wore different shoes, maybe she would have been embarrassed. But maybe so. In other words, your maturity level, depending on where you are, that feeling can be a small feeling or can be a greater feeling because you're just more mature. Like we have all our shoes off, somebody has a hole in their sock. I don't even care. Hey, whatever, Some people say that. Well, another person who may care about that more, whatever, They say, oh, I feel so, I feel, you know, they want to hide their feet or whatever, not like look at it, you know what I mean? But so maturity, okay, all right. Another one is justification. All right. Some people feel justified, you know. Do you really this emotion just came? How do you feel about it? Are you justified? But and we'll go with that a little bit more. Uh and like I don't know if someone said this, weariness. All right. Something can happen, like maybe embarrassment, one of these things, anger or shame or discouragement. Let's take discouragement, all right? You know, something can happen that could discourage you, right? But like Pastor I said, Tom, if you waited and waited and waited, something that was so easy for you to handle and it caused a little discouragement, you just shake it off. But after some time, after months or maybe weeks or years or whatever, then when this thing happens, now, you know, it's like that saying, the straw that broke the camel's back, and I know that's not a Christian saying, but it's like that one little thing, because of all the other stuff, even though it was light, it's so much more weightier. All right. And everybody who has any questions or comments on this, please feel free. Another one is shock. You just might not be ready for it, you know?
You said we're gonna go over all this stuff later, right? So
Yeah, we're going to go all over it. We're going to write it down. And the reason is because we have so much scripture, so many scriptures, so much. We're going to go over this, put it down now, and then we'll discuss it, okay? Discernment. Do you really understand what's going on? And maybe you don't, okay? If you don't understand, see, we had a message or teaching about knowing yourselves, right? Or discerning how things are going on. If you don't get discern the situation or know yourself, then it can magnify the situation. But if you understand who you are, that these things make me mad. I have I have low tolerance for this right here. Okay. And now if something happens, you can be ready for it. Okay. I know I have a low tolerance and I'm feeling this way, but I know that's just how I am right now. And so you can take a deep breath. All right. But if you really just come into who you know, who you are right now, and it just happens and you're angry, you know, and then after it happens over and over and over again, you can understand, oh, this is what really sets me off. But sometimes it takes us time to even learn ourselves. Okay. All right. The other thing is, I have truth here too. You know, really, you know, I'm trying to tell you something. Christians, it's so funny. Have you ever got a telephone call? Somebody said something. You know, the vast majority of the time, when somebody brings back bad news, like it's not even true. You know, you'll say, "Do you know what? Just you know, it's probably going to be this way. They're probably going to, you know, they're probably going to fire you, or you know, this person doesn't like you, or you know, you didn't do that good on the interview, or whatever, and it can cause you discouragement, and you know, you can be in a doldrums. But as you live with the Lord, or walk with, you understand that many times this doesn't even happen. It never happened. They never felt that way or whatever. Many of these things are just things that people or somebody is saying to discourage you. They may not understand that they're doing that, but a lot of these things, you know, if they say this might happen, or you know, this is going to happen, this will probably happen, and cause a person discouragement because so many people are talking about it, but a lot of times it doesn't even happen. All right. And so the thing about that is, it's like, is it a true statement? Is it really going to happen? If it's really not. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, and it goes with these two right here, magnify. God can magnify how you feel. You know, the Holy Spirit can be upon you. All right. It can magnify how you feel. Same thing with the evil spirit. The evil spirit, you know, if you don't understand what's going on, it can magnify how you feel. Okay. So these are magnifiers. I'll just put it in here. This is what magnifiers. We want to talk about all these things, okay? And see, if God is doing something, He's doing something for a particular action, okay? and then there's a change. So we know a lot of times we go through a lot of things, we feel out certain ways, but God is testing us, He's developing us, so we can make a good decision by in faith, and then we'll be changed. All right. See, a person who is a fearful person can act in fear, and guess what? They can be changed in their personality. Is fear. They're always operating in fear. This is part of their personality. They're all real afraid of just stuff. They're jumpy. There's something's happening, like if there's some type of disease, they know they're going to get it. It's a cold and they don't want to get it or whatever. So this is something, and this is why the evil spirit or the devil or whatever will want to cause these things. He wants to cause you to have an action. He wants to cause you to change and not be who God has called you to be. But God wants to have an action to change you into more like Jesus Christ. All right? All right, so now we got all that done. So now let's talk about it. Okay. All right. Now we're going to talk about any of these feelings or any others that you come up with. Now, I want to ask you something. Why is it important to understand your feelings?
To not be led by them.
Not to be led by them. Okay, right. Anyone else? All right. Nicholas?
No, feelings really, they're temporary. They're temporary, and a lot of times, as far as the natural feelings, because you have to be able to, when you walk in maturity, you begin to discern between natural feelings that you have and then the spiritual feelings, the things that come from God. That He might have you have a certain feeling on your heart, like you might feel like a sadness, or you might feel like a pain, or you might feel something, a grief, or something might come like a passion, something that come on you, and you have to discern, okay, this is God's feeling, how He feels about this person or this situation, this circumstance, as opposed to sometimes you can actually be just in a moment, and like you said, deal with a natural feeling and be able to have to understand, discern, okay, this is a natural feeling. I can't let this rule me and take me out of the place of the spirit realm.
Right.
So it's like, oh gosh, disappointment or fear or shame. Oh no, I'm so ashamed now that I'm not going to read my Bible. I'm not going to church. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to do the things that God wants me to do. And so you become driven by those type of natural emotions. You have to discern, okay,
Exactly.
what is this? And in a minute you acknowledge what it is, it has to bow.
Amen. And right. I said, I want to, like you said, it was so wonderful. I want to take shame, okay? Because God can do something, or He can even allow the enemy to do something, okay? There will be an event, all right? And a person, if they're weak, they can be embarrassed. They may feel shame, all right? And we've all been there. But we know, and God taught me this early, that you need to be a fool for Him, not worry about being embarrassed. If you don't have to worry about being embarrassed, then He can use me, But an immature person won't feel that way. So something can happen, right? And that person feels shame. Another person, if shame tries to come, they just put it off. I said, no, I'm not going to feel this way. I'm not going as a mature person, a person who's understanding the truth. And so they're not going to enter into that. So God calls that event, all right? Okay? So that they can act in faith and it can change them into more like Christ and change them the person that they need to be. All right? Okay. Go ahead.
And also if you're dealing with that, it's staying right there with say shame or fear. Like oftentimes the enemy will try to do things when you're a child and try to keep causing events to happen when you're a child, over and you're a teenager, events keep happening. Now you're getting into college, events keep happening. Now you say you come to Christ in college. Okay, now you have to deal with this. And so He tries to bring situations that kind of mimic your before life.
Right.
To try to get you to act like that in your afterlife, to re-embody that, even though you've accepted Jesus and not and fail to understand what you've received and what belongs to you. Because I remember like dealing with certain things like as a child, and when I saw that event after Christ, it's like the same trigger of feelings will try to come back, and being in immaturity and not being taught, you respond and act according just like you did before. Because if you're not taught, that hey, this is what this is why this is happening. Like you said, God will try to grow you, but if you're still not, if you don't know, you're not being taught these things, you can respond in the old man or the old way. and it can, and so it's having to be delivered from that and recognize what it is and to be able to go forward, because there's things now that do not trigger, thank God. When you see the progress, you can praise God for the progress, for what used to trigger you, that it doesn't now. But it's understanding these kind of things in the moment by moment.
Okay. So we're going to take some of these feelings, and if you want to be a person who wants to give an example of something you may have happened, or maybe you don't, but maybe just a feeling itself, something that was like, because these feelings are real, they are, they're real. And so when this event happens, it can cause something like anger or sadness or fear, or person won't take the negatives right now, or nervousness or stress. And so the thing about this is this, we have to evaluate it, all right? Okay? And don't let it overcome us. Because this is something that I've learned, I believe this. And I know people, you deal with it the best way you can, all right? The way that it works for you, okay? But it's just like, if you have this feeling and you don't want to talk about it, or if you don't want to admit it, or if you don't want to pray about it or suppress it, it can get worse and worse and worse, all right? So we need to understand, see, all of us are different, and we actually do have feelings. God made us so that we can have feelings. He didn't make us so that we would be unfeeling robots, all right? Feelings is part of our personality, all right? Some people will, like somebody could tell a wonderful joke right now, and some of us will just laugh, laugh, laugh. And some of us say, okay, well, whatever, because that joke will tickle some of us. But another person have a personality, well, they don't even think about that. You know what I'm saying? But that's who they are, right? And so God has made us to have feelings, okay? But these feelings cannot control us, all right? And part of and see what I mean is this, the feelings that you have can cause you to be a person, okay? This is why I said self. It can change you. Well, who is the person you are right now? Who are you? Okay? Let's say, I don't know if I should do an example, but you want to do some examples? That way it could be you and not me?
Yes.
You want to give an example?
Me being what?
No, okay, in other words, okay, say, look, all right, I'll use Pastor Alice as my wife and say, you know what? Pastor Alice, you really taught a good word 2 weeks ago. But I just don't know what happened last week. And I can say that, right?
Right.
And then she's mature, okay, she's really mature. But someone that's not that mature, say, man, what did I do? What happened? And they can be discouraged, especially if they cherish my opinion, you know what I mean, of what did I do. And now, next time they get up to speak, they're nervous, right? And so all these things that happen, someone, a lady, and nobody here wears hats, okay? But a lady could come into a hat and love her hat, and then another person in the church said, that hat really doesn't do that much for you. You know what I mean? And so I know it's kind of funny, right? See, y'all are mature. Y'all will laugh about it, okay? So what? Okay, now, y'all say, well, oh, okay, yeah.
The old school church.
Well, y'all are mature, so you know not to handle it the wrong way, okay? That's so funny.
Give an example.
Right.
Like Sunday, if I had nobody here would do that. But
And like I said, in the audience, nobody here wears hats, okay?
Right.
In our church, so far you do. Go ahead.
Well, but my example is with my shoes, having on 2 different shoes. Now, somebody had come up to me while I was there and said, Pastor Alice, you got 2 different shoes on. It doesn't really look good. You shouldn't do that or something like that. Then that would probably stick in my ear. And I'm thinking, But nobody here would do that. But I'm just saying, if somebody
Yeah.
who's in the church, who's just,
Yeah.
you know, saying what they feel, that could cause me to think, oh, wow. And that would cause me to be maybe shameful,
Mhm.
you know, in getting up, or shameful while I'm up at prayer. I'm thinking about that. So, yeah, words can
And make
stick
you
with you.
self-conscious.
They
Yeah.
make you self-conscious, and words
Wow.
can stick with you.
Yeah,
So you
they
got to
can.
be able to push it off,
Right.
or move it off of you before you go forward.
And see, now we're talking about how it can be, the spirit can magnify, because now, even though you're mature, it comes back to your mind and the mind, because the enemy is doing that. He's bringing it
Right.
before you
Yeah.
again, and even though you push it off, it's coming back again. So he's trying to magnify it to get you off your game. And see, what we're just talking about right now is this person, this well-meaning person, who you know that you got, but this person wants to come and tell you, do you know that that you have two different shoes on? Like, duh, don't you think? We know.
Right.
Don't you think? We know.
Yeah.
And goes, don't you know, Pastor Alice? Well, you know, and people sometimes who are immature do things like that,
That's right.
you know, and they don't understand or realize what they do. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But this is an event. Now, what type of feeling is it going to cause? All right, you know.
Is this somebody's phone? Is
There's
that
something in there.
That's probably just the facts.
Okay, yeah, all right. So, and so, you know, like, I thank God for people here. They're very mature, right? So we can laugh about all these things. But some of these things, I mean, especially if something hits you, like I said, a magnifier that surprises you, it can really, and sometimes, you know, you're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to know better. You know, you walk with God, but then some things can just hit you, all right?
Mhm.
And it can be magnified. And you have this feeling, you say, I should know better. I maybe shouldn't feel this way, but I still feel with this. You know, maybe it's anger, or maybe it's fear or unhappiness. You know, let's say unhappiness. Unhappiness. I know God is with me. I know God is blessed me. But something can happen. It can just make you unhappy. You know? And so if you're unhappy, let's talk about that. I mean, what should you do? One of the things I said, one thing, of course, we'll talk about that I already said, you shouldn't suppress it, okay? All right. Now I know that, you know,
Shouldn't.
you should not suppress it. Okay. But if you're really unhappy, I mean, if it's something that's passing, but if it's something that's you're really unhappy, you should not suppress it. Now, you may disagree with that.
I
But-
agree.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
agree, because it could eat you.
That's right.
It's
Right.
gnawing you.
And so, number one, you should not suppress it. But what else should you do after that? You can pray. What else? Yeah, and you say pray.
We can talk about it.
You can talk about it. So when it's mature, whoever.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do, like you said, pray. I'll be more specific. I want to go to the Lord and talk to Him about it. I'll say, Lord, I am unhappy. You know, I know you've been good. I know you did this. I know who you are. You know, but I just feel, because you know, majority of the time you have pushed it off, but this particular time you really are. So you take those feelings to the Lord, all right, and share with Him. Another thing you can do besides take it to the Lord as well. I think somebody might have said it.
You said talk to
Talk to
others.
someone. You have a good Christian friend that you can confide in, a prayer partner, you know, that loves you and understands that's mature. You can go to them and share with them, because they're not going to be like this person who said, well, don't you know you should? Well, no, they're going to listen to you. They're going to have compassion with you, and they're going to help you pray through it, all right? And they're going to encourage you, all right?
I have a question. Okay, if someone does come to you and say that, you can also say, thank you for noticing. I already knew it, but what you said hurt my feelings. You can
Yeah,
just tell them
you
the
could do
truth.
that. You'll be honest.
You
You're
can
right.
tell them the truth.
That's
Speak the
right.
truth in love.
That's right. And hopefully, if that person really didn't understand, then that, you know, that'll put a check in their spirit and they'll not do that
We'll
again.
definitely put a check.
Yeah. The other thing is this: is you can, if you you can speak the word of God in the situation. So speak the word of God in the situation, and speak the word of God even in yourself. I think Aaron said that he would look in the mirror and he speak the word of God to himself in the mirror, telling him who he was. You know,
Mhm.
so we can speak the word of God to ourselves. Pastor Ellis.
Yeah, I have another example too, Pastor.
Yes.
I had an event at the girls' home, and I remember I was going to bring a message that Saturday, and I got a phone call right before I got ready to go, say that my nephew, who I really love, had died. And
Yes.
I mean, it hit me like a brick, like shock, like you said, the magnifier and sadness was trying to overcome me. But I knew that God wanted me to bring the message to the girls at the nursing home. So I had to push all those thoughts, all those feelings, all that emotion away. And I just went and I did what I was supposed to do. And it was a very powerful message. And then afterwards, I told the ladies what had happened. And because I knew if I had told them before, I would have gotten a lot of, and people are nice, a lot of sympathy and empathy and all those things that you probably didn't want to get into because you're getting ready to preach the word of God. So sometimes when you're feeling that way, you can put those feelings like on the shelf or push them out until you accomplish what you need to do. And then go back and grieve or mourn or think about it. Yeah. And it's kind of hard to do, but God can give you the strength to do that.
Yes. Yes, right. And so we're talking about, like, we was talking about maturity and not letting overcome, like you were talking about, you're mature, even though you felt that you knew what to do. But many people, especially if they're young in Christ, they don't know what to do. And see, the enemy wants to bring up these situations so he can cause them to make a bad decision. Mm-hmm. And like Nicholas, you were saying, some people, something can happen in the church where they feel ashamed, and now they're not coming to church anymore. Mm-hmm. And so the enemy caused something to happen, or maybe God tested them, and they got angry with God, or they didn't want to wait any longer, or whatever. But anyway, whatever they were feeling was magnified, and it caused them to be offended. Okay, all right. And so all these different things we call offense. Sadness, discouragement, anger, shame, embarrassment, fear, frustration, nervousness, stress. It causes people to be offended. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, go backtrack. When we said speak the truth in love, just tell the person how that made you feel. That could probably stop them from doing that to anybody again. So they won't have to hurt other people's feelings. Because, I mean, that's your opinion.
Yes.
I do have a question when it comes to, not ineffectual, like pushing feelings aside or anything along the lines of that we were talking about. You feel these things that you should talk to people about it. Is it better to have a network of friends to rely on, or is it better just to be self-reliant and just lean on God in those situations?
Yeah, it just depends on you, and it depends on your network of friends. See, some people may not have a friend that they trust, somebody's mature, and they will have to lean on the Lord. And I do believe that sometimes you do have to walk alone, but eventually God will give you someone that you can talk to, And so you have to judge it. You need to ask the Lord, can I talk to this person? But actually, everything you do, you're trusting the Lord. Even if you're going to a friend, you're trusting the Lord. If you apply the word of God, you're still trusting God. Everything you do is in the compass of trusting the Lord when you're working out the situation. So it just depends on yourself.
Can I give you an example?
Yes.
Let's say that you're discouraged, right? And you're feeling discouraged. You really you spoke to God about it, but you feel if you go to a friend and say how discouraged you are, that might get them, you don't want to speak discouragement to another, friend, because that might actually affect them. You know what I'm saying? So how can we gauge when to just like stand alone and when to actually go to people?
Well, actually, still maturity, and because sometimes you'll make the mistake of going and talking to someone you shouldn't have. But really, the main thing, you have to pray and ask the Lord, should I talk to someone? Some people are not mature enough, or they don't feel like they're confident to hear God. Tell them what to do, and then they go and talk to a friend, even if God did not say to talk to that friend. So sometimes it's trial and error. But really, God, you have to let the Holy Spirit lead you, because I'm telling you, there's some things that you're probably not going to be able to talk to anybody about. Depending on how you walk God, you're not going to be able to tell anybody. You just go to God with it. And again, you're right. You don't want to bring down a friend. You don't want to discourage a friend. And that's why, if you do talk to someone, you want to talk to someone who's mature. All right. You don't want to talk to someone who's immature that can hurt them. Okay, Nicholas.
Well, I was gonna say this back with what you were just saying, exactly what Pastor had just said. There's been times, obviously, I'll be talking to the Lord, and He'll say, "Call so and so," and then so I'll call, and then all of a sudden, or call this person, and I'm like, okay, boom, and then I'm just encouraged. And what happens sometimes, it takes my mind off of the subject or off of the feeling, in order to address the feeling. And then when I remember it was there. Oh, I felt that way, but he'll just take it. But he'll use a conversation, just a godly conversation. Not even about the subject. And other times it is about the subject. And then and then all of a sudden that person says one word and it triggers something, and God just uses that person. And there's other times he'll say, "Don't call anybody." And then so I, go here, and he'll have me do something. And while I'm doing something, he deals with me. He gets my mind off of that, so that way I'm not so focused on it that I can't hear him. Because you get so focused on situation or feeling that it's like you can't even hear him talking to you if you're so in it. So you have to take your mind and attach you out of it, so he can deal with you in it and then remove it and help you in it. So
Yeah,
I agree.
Just to
Go ahead.
just to piggyback on what you said, I feel like I see that really clearly with my kids. Like if they're really upset about something or worried about like the new school year or different things, like distraction actually really helps, because it's like you're distracting them from that intense feeling. Not to say you can't go back and address it, like maybe you talk with them later before bed when they're calm, but like distraction, doing something fun, or let's go do this, or just to get their mind off of it where they're clear to actually receive something later on. I feel like it's clear with children, but I think that does work for us too. Like if you're really sad, don't stay in your house and close the shutters and watch a really sad movie and try to pray the Lord and ask him why you're sad. Like maybe open the blinds or go outside, do something you enjoy doing, get clear, free your spirit to actually be able to receive encouragement from him. And so I don't really think that's like suppressing it per se to distract yourself, but kind of like dealing with it in a way that is more healthy, and come back to it.
Right.
Hopefully with a
Yeah,
more
you
open
can do
heart.
things like if you're saying, you do things to make you happy,
Do the opposite.
and that's the way you can deal with it. Yeah, now this is one thing I want to talk about too. Now, because so many of us are mature, and like someone who was going through something, you don't know how I feel. You don't know what I'm going through. Their emotion is really heavy in this situation. All right. Now, if you have access to that person, let's say they're a friend of yours, how can you minister to someone who's in this deep, overwhelming, emotional feeling? And of course, we're talking about feelings that are, not good, not like love or those sort of things, but feelings that are causing pain, and feelings that are not causing joy.
I find this to be a hard balance, because I have some friends and I've gone through times when I was so depressed. I really just wanted a pity party, and I wanted just to talk to people and get pity and waller in my sorrows. And that really didn't help me, and it didn't help, whoever my friend was who I was asking them for that. And I've had friends who are in that same kind of situation, and I can tell they really need someone to listen to them, but it's hard to establish that line of like how much it is helpful to do that. So it's like you have to ask the Lord, like, okay, give me discernment about how much to listen and just encourage. And I mean, you always want to encourage, but you can't just stay there with them forever. And so you have to like be bringing hope and light and encouragement and praying with them, letting them get things off their chest, but at the same time, not like being okay with them just staying like that, because some people really, there's this pull to stay there.
Right.
And so that's a hard line to draw sometimes. Like, I want to be here for you, but I can't agree with like some of the stuff you're saying that's not true about yourself and not true about God.
Right.
Right. And I was going to say that just brought me to remember about Job when he had that big, all those things that happened to him, and his friends came to see him, and his friends just sat with him for what, I think it was 7 days or so. 7 days. They sat with him for 7 days and didn't say anything. So sometimes it's just having somebody there while you're like Hope was saying, while you're going through that, and they're not say anything or give any advice, but they're just there for you. Sometimes that helps. That helps, console that person.
Yes,
I was going to say this. One thing, you have to really be led by the Lord. You really do have to be led as far as what to do. Because I've had times where you have people that just listen, they're quiet the whole time. Almost to the point where you think they're not there anymore. And then when it's time to speak, they speak. I've had times also where you say all these things, the person waits, and then they come back, and it's like a gentle uppercut that comes your way and of truth. Like, this is not who you are. This is you, the person I'm here right now is not who you are. And they start calling you into being who you are. Say, oh, no, this is what God has for you. This is who you are. This is who you were made to be. This is the person I see that God has allowed me to see and get to know. And it's like that. It's almost like pouring water over a person who's like kind of been like, got out of it. It's like refreshing them and waking them up. Because those who refresh others shall be refreshed. So it's like refreshing them, with the word of God and who God says they are.
Amen. Okay.
And sometimes God will tell you what to say. There was a situation this past week where someone was telling me something had happened, and I know the person and the person, the other one. And the other one is a really hard laborer, and she pours all her heart out, but now she's hurting. And this other person who's telling me about it, she has like a slight infirmity, but the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, the strong should bear the infirmity of the weak. And then I told her that. And then I said, I have seen this lady labor very hard on your behalf when your other friends are sitting around laughing and talking. And I just broke it down to let her know. Then the reason why she's so hurt is because now she needs help. And you're saying no, and that hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts bad because, so God told me to say that, and so I did. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. That's nice. What I was just going to say on both sides, if you are feeling discouragement, the most important thing to do in any situation, which is go to God with it. I had times where I just poured my heart out, Lord. Nobody knew I was talking about. Nobody knew what was going on. And I went to work, and there was this there's this person. His name was Jerome. Really, really good guy, great Christian. He's usually quiet, and he just said that, Aaron, I felt led to give you something. It was a pamphlet, step by step, of scripture, of things, of like encouragement. Didn't even tell him what was going on, And I was like, wow, the Lord would like supply. And on the other side of it, if you're encouraging something, what Nicholas said is so key, that you have to have discernment. I remember, when I was encouraging one person, I didn't know his name. I just sat there and I just said what was on my heart, what the Lord gave me, and it really encouraged him. Person, person was very, very disrespectful, very, very adamant. I was thinking that I should correct that person, because I was, in authority at that time and taking care of this person. I was like, the Lord just told me just to sit with them. So I sat with them. I felt better. So you just have to have discernment on, on either side.
Right. Very good.
Amen.
It's interesting, Pastor Ray, because even in dealing with some of these emotions and things like that, and you're talking to people or feeling a certain way, it's like one of the things too to try to hold you there is like that whole victim. It's like the lie that you're a victim. Like the feeling comes that, oh, okay, you're ashamed. It's like, okay, well, I was a victim. This person did this. They did this. The whole situation keeps replaying over and over again. Woe was me. I'm the victim. And it's like, no, that's not the place. Because that also tries to come to try to, at times, to try to hinder people and try to keep them where they are. And you know, and God doesn't want us to really.
See, this is why
I am
we
so
are.
sorry.
This is why we're at the Hampton Inn.
Jim,
Because
Okay, hold
it.
This, okay,
yeah,
hold
you're
it.
gonna have to get him.
Champ. Okay, just sit down. Champ, come. Champ, come. Champ, come. Sit down and stay. You want to be in Bible study? Sit down. I'll be fine. Yeah. Champ, down.
Scared of the thunderstorm.
Down.
My
Stay.
God, the
There's
thunderstorm.
thunderstorm, so we'll give him a break. Okay. No stay. All right. See, I could be angry right now. I am, you know. That's okay. Yeah, I feel like I want to, but anyway, yeah. So anyway, anyway. So one of the reasons why we are talking about this, okay, because we have to understand the weapons the enemy uses, and this is the way that he does it. He causes people to feel a certain way, and a person can be strong in so many different ways, but the enemy will study you and find your weak point, and that's the area that he wants to hit. You know, he doesn't fight fair. He's not an honorable person. He has no honor. He'll do anything he can to get you to feel a certain way, to get you to act out something. All right. So we have to understand, even though the feeling can be so emotional, whatever it is, we have to understand, especially we can't let this feeling be an opportunity for the enemy to have an area in our life. Okay.
It's also very, very important to be in right standing. To have no unforgiven sin. Because I've known, of course, in my years, and when everything's in alignment, I feel joy, I feel happiness, thoughts are so, easy and everything. But any sort of disobedience or any sort of unforgiven sin where I'm not where I'm supposed to be, those feelings come, and I was like, hold on, why am I feeling this way? Why I'm feeling this sort of way? And it could be like, 24 hours later, I feel 24 hours earlier, I feel fine. But I did something out of disobedience, and now that thought just comes up and rises up, and I was like, okay, it's harder to push away this feeling. Why is it harder to push away this feeling? That's right, Lord, I wasn't obedient to this. Let me get back in right standing with you. And, that makes it a whole lot, smoother processes. And there are going to be times where you are going to have to do some spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
You always want to have your armor.
Amen.
It's hard to fight without a shield.
Amen.
So,
That's right.
like a breastplate, So,
Go ahead.
And I think just like the fact that we're talking about this and just awareness, because I feel like there's kind of a tendency in the body to just say, well, emotions, you do just need to suppress it. You need to put it aside, do the work, who he's called you to be. And there's not like a real legitimate discussion about it, because like you said, he made us with emotions. We're not automatons. We're, we have emotions, we have feelings, they come up, but we do need to be aware of them so we know how to work with them, and we know how to hand over the ones that aren't from him and how to embrace the ones that are. And like, something like weariness. Like I notice when I'm exhausted, my fuse with my kids is so much shorter. Or if I'm stressed out about something, even if it doesn't have to do with them, my fuse is shorter with them. So it's like we also, if there's certain times of the day when we know we typically get tired, we don't try to plan a whole bunch of stuff around that time. Like there's ways to kind of work with, and not just try to always work around, but like work with what we know, kind of how he's made us. Like I'm tired at 2:00 in the afternoon, and my kids are too. It's not a great time to go out and try to like conquer the world. Like we need to relax, have some downtime. Maybe they watch a show, mama takes a nap, and then we don't snap at each other, But when we aren't aware, we aren't self-aware, then we're just much more likely to try to couch it, and then it just comes up in unhealthy ways. We just have to be aware of it.
Yeah, and one like you're talking about, one of the things we talk about how the enemy tries to, uh, make you act out things. Another thing he wants to do is to cause problems between in relationships because he wants to break relationships up, a husband and wife, child and parent, pastor and member, or whoever. He wants to break that, that union. It's a friendship, it's a brotherly, it's a love, it's a trust, or whatever. He wants to come in. All right. And like what you saying, Vanessa said, one of the things, like if something was hurtful, like you said, a person told her something, she would say, well, that really made me feel, I didn't like what you said. And now, once she told that person that, then hopefully that person understands. And so now there's nothing that's going to be festering. That the enemy, he loses. All right.
That's right.
But see, if a person and you wouldn't do this, but like a person just got mad and kept it, now it's festering. All right. So just understand that the enemy, if you have um, a great relationship, husband, wife, parent, children, whatever, the enemy's going to try to come in and break it up. It's just the way it is. All right.
And I don't know the scripture, but it says if you have a quarrel with a brother, then you should seek that brother and talk to him in private, and that way the matter will be resolved. So I did, I had something, and I thought that, I had a something like a dispute against someone, and not against someone, but it was more of the lines of I didn't know. So I searched the scriptures, and it said that. So I was like, you know what? We're both mature. Called up that person, and I think we went to like lunch cafe or something, and of course that matter was resolved easily, but had I sat there and was like, oh well, this and that, then resentment might have came in, so especially if both of them's mature, both of the brothers or the sisters are mature, I think that's the best thing.
Right. So let's get into some scriptures now. Let's go to Genesis chapter 16. All right. And I want to ask you, you just read the whole story and then we'll comment, okay? Genesis chapter 16, 1 through 5, Pastor Alice.
Yes, sir.
Genesis 16, 1 through 5.
Genesis 16, 1 through 5. Now Sarah, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said unto Abram, Behold, now the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarah. And Sarah, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarah said unto Abram, My wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid unto thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and thee.
Okay, that's good right there. Okay, so
I was despised.
so Sarah, and it's kind of a little kid, but Sarah, she was disappointed God had not given her and her husband a child. She was grieved, and guess what? She took action.
That's right.
She took action and made a bad decision. And so, only, and see, she, of course, she knew her and Abram knew the Lord. they were faithful people. She was a very good wife. It talks about she was a very good wife, but she had to be so whatever it was, the grief, the discouragement, the disappointment had to be so much for her. She waited so long that she wanted to take action to her own hands. And so the reason why we're doing this, these are people of the Lord that know God, all right? And they're making these decisions. Okay, Hope?
Sarai, she also projected her feelings of despisement onto Hagar, because in verse 4 it says her mistress was despised in her eyes. So Hagar was despised in Sarai's eyes. And then in verse 5 it says Sarai's talking and she says, I was despised in her eyes.
Right.
So she was projecting onto Hagar. We don't necessarily, maybe Hagar did despise her, but it doesn't say that. It says basically Sarai despised Hagar. And then she goes and talks to Abram and says, well, Hagar despised me. So also feeling sometimes if they're not right and you're not really dealing with them in the right way, you project what you're feeling onto others.
Yeah.
And think that they're feeling a certain way about you when really it's all in your head. So like so much more important what Aaron said about if you feel like there is some kind of beef between you and someone else, go talk to that sister or brother to clear it up so that you're not projecting, you're not worrying what they're thinking, resentment's not building.
Well, it just, as you go on, Hagar did.
Yeah.
But it could have started it because, if someone's not mature, it's like the person argumentative, and then they come and be argumentative toward a person, then that person can react. Because Hagar, as we know, know that she's like a believer in, God the Father and such and such. She was just a friend. Because what happened was Hagar and Hagar and Sarai were friends. But after this happened, and so if you do an action that's not of the Lord, then it can cause all these different things that happen, that are not good. Yes, go ahead.
Hagar was her maid.
Yes.
And so what I think happened is that Sarah got jealous. And when you're wrong, it's hard to say you're wrong is your idea. And that's why she projected that onto Hagar, saying that she was despising her eyes when it was her all along.
Right.
It's too embarrassed to tell the truth about it.
So the thing about it is this. And then I got like I said, these feelings, grief, disappointment, discouragement, whatever they are. And so Abram may not even know how his wife was feeling. This is something she was feeling, And now because of this, she's taken action. Of course, this is not a good action. And she says here in verse 5, and Sarah said to Abram, my wrong be upon thee. So she was wrong, all right? She admitted it. But he says that I have given my maid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judged between me and thee. So she's saying that even though I was wrong,
it's your fault.
It's your fault. And if you're ever going to get married, men, get used to that. I'm just joking. I'm just joking about it. Okay? But anyway,
Wait.
But anyway, what I'm saying is this. She said that it's your fault, all right? And it was his fault because he had the promise. God had spoken to Abraham, all right? So it was his fault. He should have said no, all right?
That's right.
He should have said no. And because, see, the Bible talks about, a woman being a weaker vessel. It doesn't mean, of course, she's weaker than a man is stronger, but it really talks about women are more emotional. So we're talking about feelings. They're more emotional, all right? And men are less emotional. So the man can usually make a better decision because they're not operating in emotion when a woman may be. And I'm saying maybe, she may not be. I'm just saying you have to understand tendency. So, the ladies here are mature, but maybe you have a lady who's not mature. Or, remember the magnifiers? She's waited such a long time. She's so discouraged. She's so disappointed. And the grief that she has is maybe overwhelming. She just wants to make a decision. And her decision is not a good one.
So she's justifying.
So she's justifying what she's doing. Right.
That's right.
And
And
it could have,
also, go ahead.
it could have hurt her feelings too, that, like you said, he didn't say no. He just went and did it. And so that could have hurt her feelings too.
And that's a good, like, if we do something based on someone else's really strong emotion about it, like, we need to have discernment and check, is this really what you want me to do, Lord? Because someone can feel really strongly, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're right.
That's
Exactly.
exactly right.
Exactly.
That's
Very
what
good.
happened here.
Someone can feel really strongly. That doesn't mean they're right. Someone can be very great with words and be a very great debater, but it does not mean that they're right.
That's exactly
That's
right.
actually what I was going to piggy. Great comment, Hope. It says in the Bible, there's a way that seems right in a man's eyes, and the end thereof there's death. Like you said, a lot of women have a lot of emotions,
Right.
but also us men, we can be very direct.
Right.
I know if I see a thought or if I have an idea, it's hard for me to sway that idea, depending whether it's wrong or right, whether somebody else's opinion, I don't know. It's the way I see it, so I'm going to go about this way. That's why having woman and man's union is so important, so
Right.
that could actually off balance each and every one of those emotions.
That's right. So women God made women with more emotions because so many different reasons. They're, with, children, like they're so motherly, emotion. And so, and they're patient. Not that men are not patient, but there are certain traits that women have that are really wonderful with children. And also, it also help men because more men are more rugged and more direct and everything. And so sometimes it can bring out more of the men, you know what I mean? And vice versa. So God made men the way He made men and made women the way He made women so they can come and be one.
Amen.
All right. All right. So let's continue through some more of these scriptures. So Sarah, and that was disappointment, discouragement, grief. All right. So now we're going to go to 2 Samuel, verse 11, 1 through 5. And we're going to have Vanessa read that, please.
Okay.
2 Samuel 11, 1 through 5.
Okay.
Excuse me. Actually, okay, well, yeah, we actually had Moses, but I tell you what, I'll go ahead and let you read that one, Vanessa.
So 2 Samuel chapter 11 verses 1 through 5.
Right, exactly.
Is everyone there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, here we go. 2 Samuel chapter 11 verses 1 through 5. And it came to pass, after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel. And they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah, but David tarried still at Jerusalem. And it came to pass in eventide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself. And the woman was very beautiful to look upon. And David sent and inquired after the woman. And one said, Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? And David sent messengers and took her, and she came in unto him, and he lay with her, for she was purified from her uncleanness, and she returned unto her house. And the woman conceived
And that's
sent.
good, right? And the woman conceived.
Okay.
Now we're talking here, this is David, and the feeling he had was lust. Now the Bible tells the truth even about the men of God. Just a mistake that David made. He was operating in lust, and this is something very real. He's a man of God, a man who loved God, a man who knew God, a man who had many wives, all right, at this point. And so he's on the, I guess, wherever he is in his kingdom, in his castle, or wherever he had, he has a great fear. And it's this lady who's bathing on a rooftop, all right? And so when he saw her, as it was very beautiful to look upon, it was lust. It was lust. It wasn't like, it was love. It was lust. So he commanded her to come. He went into her, and then he sent her home. That is lust. He got what he wanted and sent her away. But she could see. Now here's the problem. Okay. Now David can't hide what he just did. All right. That's a big problem. Not that if she had to see it, God still would have known and something, it still would have been a problem, but now it's a big problem. And we know the story. So David, and see, remember, look at this. The enemy set David up. The enemy set him up. And see, this must have been a weakness with David. David was strong in so many ways, a man of faith. He was a courageous man. He's a man who loved God. He was a man who worshiped God. All right. And even though he had more than one wife, this was a weakness. And the enemy took advantage of it. Go ahead.
I heard a teaching one time on this about the fact that it was,
Yes.
and it came to pass after the year was expired, at the time when kings, which David was the king, go forth to battle,
Right.
that he was home.
Mhm.
And so, but David tarried still at Jerusalem. And I remember the preacher was talking about how, like, really David should have been at battle at that
Mhm.
time.
He should have.
So, like, the enemy kind of set him up, but also his maybe, I don't know what was going through him, but what made him tarry? Like, was he in disobedience already to the Lord? And then the enemy was able to come in with this opportunistic thing because David wasn't where he was supposed to be.
Right. That's right. So we don't know all the details, but he was supposed to be, because you're right, it said that kings. And so she may be thinking that all the men are gone.
That's right.
And it's safe to,
Mhm.
to be on a rooftop, because like she may have had a high rooftop, and the only place that she could have been seen was from the king's house. But the king's house, he's supposed to be gone.
Right.
So so we don't really see anything that she actually was done wrong. But the thing about it is that the king comes, the king makes the rules, and so what can she do?
Wow.
So and of course we don't have all the details, but still, this is something that David made a mistake in when he saw her. All right,
Right.
he lusted.
Mm-hmm.
So it went from her being beautiful to him lusting, and he had to have her. And once he got her, he went into it and then sent her home.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's lust.
Yeah.
There's no love there. There's no caring there. He just sent her away.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And Pastor Ray, that's kind of like what Aaron was saying earlier about if you're, in sin or disobedient, then those feelings, like that feeling of lust and not being in his right place, the enemy has a way to
Right.
lure you into something that's not right. And so you have to make sure you're in right standing, that you check yourself and you have these feelings so that you can
You have
stand
to.
and,
Exactly.
Lord, this
You
is
have to
right.
push it away. But then again, we talk about justification. He said, I'm the king. Who is that? I'm the king. I can do what I want to do. And then even though he really can't do what he wants to do, but he may have felt that justification, because if you have this feeling, if you don't take care of it, and if you're going to take a bad action, you have to justify the action that you take. Why am I going to take it? Well, because of this, I'm the king. So in other words, when you have this, whatever this bad feeling is, and you're going to take a bad action, there's justification. That's the reason why you're doing it. And it may be wrong, but that's you're talking yourself into it. Go ahead.
I was actually heard this same story today, and it's amazing how just brought it together. You know what Hope just said, that he wasn't in his correct place because he was actually supposed to be in battle, where he's supposed to be.
Mhm.
And of course, the timing, because he just happened to walk out from the exact
Right.
same time.
Right.
She just happened to be bathing. I'm assuming like 10 minutes she'll probably been gone. He just happened to stroll. He just happened to glance over there. And he just happened to think, because he wasn't in that place where he's supposed to be.
Right.
That thought came, and of course, since he wasn't in that place, he was like self justification. Oh, I can do what he wants, and that action led to that.
And
So,
just like I said, the enemy says to him, because there had to be a reason why he didn't go.
Right.
And so the enemy probably set him up for whatever it was. Maybe got one of the advice from him and say, look, stay here, whatever. We don't know why he stayed. but there's some reason why he stayed, and that reason was probably caused by the enemy. Okay, and was setting him up. Go ahead, Nicholas.
You know, it's interesting when you look at kind of just the progression, because in verse 1 it says, uh, right toward the B clause of it says, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah, but David tarried still at Jerusalem. So they had just had a great victory
Mm-hmm.
over the enemies of Israel, and so that great victory, he's like, we won. You know, I'm just going to stay a little bit longer here. I'm going to sit back and tarry. And it's sitting there. It's like when he was on the rooftop, it wasn't just a moment. He actually was up there long enough to look. He didn't see her. He looked upon her. So it wasn't just like a glance. Oh, I can't see that. It was a see, and is watching and watching. And he sat there and watched it. So it was like a process of time, him watching her bathe, because it wasn't like a quick, like 2-3 minute, okay, I'm done. Because right after that, we see that she was actually washing to purify herself from her uncleanness that time of the month. So therefore, she was washing and, going through the process of purification. So he watched that whole process, had time to process it in his mind and let that thing work on him and work on him. And then he inquired, and then he knew about that whole aspect of that. She had just, why would the Bible detail it if he didn't know, okay, she just purified herself from her uncleanness? And so all these details, he was finding all this stuff out. So this was methodically thought out, and he was led by that passion and that lust, and that spirit that was there. That's, I mean, wow. Like you said before, you were telling how the enemy was strategically trying to set you up in a situation, and that whole situation played out to that T. And her coming off her uncleanness, the fact that he wouldn't do it if she was unclean, but he would do it, after the fact. So if she had been unclean, he probably wouldn't have done it.
Right.
But her being unclean, her not being, so okay, well, she's good then. I can do this.
Right. And I'm glad you said that. One of the things, because talking about, God setting it up or the enemy set up. See, God does not tempt us with evil.
Amen.
Correct.
Amen.
So this is not a God setup.
Right.
Right.
This is a devil right here.
That's right.
Mhm.
That is
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right, so let's continue. So because we have more to get to. Let's go to Numbers chapter 20. And Aaron, can you read 1 through 13, please? Yeah, Numbers chapter 21 through 13. What?
It's Aaron. Don't even ask. Nobody.
Okay. All right, okay. All right.
I love him.
Then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, into the desert of Zin in the first month, and the people abode in Kadesh. And Miriam died there, and was buried there. And there was no water for the congregation, and they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron.
Mhm.
And the people chilled with Moses and spake, saying, Would God that we have died when our brethren died before the Lord? And why have ye brought up the congregation of the Lord into this wilderness, that we and our cattle shall die there? And wherefore have ye made us to come out of Egypt, to bring in unto this evil place? Is it no place of seed, or of figs, or of vines, or of pomegranates? Neither is there any water to drink. And Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they fell upon their faces, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto them. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Take the rod, and gather the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye unto the rock before their eyes, and it shall give forth his water, and thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock, so thou shalt give the congregation and their beast drink. And Moses took the rod from before the Lord, as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock, and he said unto them, Hear now, ye rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice, and the water came out abundantly. And the congregation drank, and their beast also. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, Because ye believed me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, Therefore ye shall not bring the congregation into the land which I have given them. This is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with the Lord, and he was sanctified in them.
And this is for all the pastors out there. This is Moses, and the feeling he had is stress. You know, Moses, the Bible says, Moses was faithful in all God's house. Moses was faithful to the Lord. But dealing with these people, they're complaining, they're stressing him out in such a way he did not obey the voice of God. Because what happened was God commanded him to smite the rock, and it gave water. But this second occasion, God told him to speak to the rock. And so because of this stress, he lost his, he's lost his, what's the word? Well, he lost focus. All right? And struck the rock instead of speaking to it. And then the penalty was very high.
His feelings, yeah.
The penalty that God gave him was very, very high. But these people caused him to disobey God. And so the enemy, caused him to take action, the wrong action. And so I just thank God for, I don't say something in the audience, I thank God for the church members that we have here. Everyone's a blessing. There's nothing but brotherly and sisterly love. These things that most experience, I must say I have experienced it. And all of those are gone. So praise God. Thank you, Jesus. Glory to God. They're all gone. Be very honest about it. But anyway, amen. So, but this is, because Moses, he loved God, he loved the people he's wanting to do. He wanted to lead the people. And what happened was he just lost his focus. He's so stressed out. They're complaining. Think about what had happened with them. Moses had taken them out. Of course, God was doing it through Moses, taking them out of bondage. They're wealthy. They see God's presence. Oh, they took them through the Red Sea and all these different things. And they're still complaining. They saw Moses on the mountain with God. They're still complaining. And Moses, he's racking his brain. They're complaining. He continued to take their complaints to God. Him and God is, what are you doing? God, help me. What's going on? And so he went ahead and just struck the rock and blew it. And so it was just stressed out. What's just so funny? God showed me this one time. He told me, said, I'm going to bring these people I'm going to bring them out of bondage. I'm going to bring them out of bondage. It says that continually. All right. But then when those people made a mistake with that golden calf, he said, Moses, the people that you brought out, that did an evil sin. God have the grace. But anyway, but anyway, this is real. So, and see Joshua, and of course, when I'm going to read about Joshua, I said, I'm not going through this. Me and my house are going to serve the Lord. You choose what you're going to do. But me and my house are going to serve the Lord. He ain't playing. He's not going through this. So anyway, so this is stress. All right. Pastors, ministers, parents. You can say all right, yeah.
Complaining, bickering. I'm just like, ooh, that was my day. That was my week.
Oh yeah.
And that's exactly. I praise God for this teaching because right before I came here, Blake and I had to have a sit down on the couch. Not with the kids because we'd already had to sit down with the kids, but the sit down was for me just to get my mind right because I'm just dealing with a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. And it's so easy to, like, when they're constantly fighting and bickering and complaining and whining, and then I start whining and bickering and complaining back. it's easy to justify and be like, well, their behavior is making me frustrated and stressed out and angry. But that's justification. Like they're 6 and 8. So if anyone's going to set the example in our home, it needs to be me. And it's just so easy to, because of weariness and all these things, just to fall and start feeling like discouraged and trapped, and all of it compounds, and if there's stress, it just amplifies it. And so I thank God for this.
Amen.
teaching, 'cause
So it's
I
not
need
just for the pastors, it's for the parents too.
Yeah.
This one right here.
And the coaches.
So yeah.
And the coaches.
And the coaches,
Yes.
okay, all right, coaches.
Anybody.
Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah.
I was just going to say
Okay.
any form of ministry
Oh, yeah.
deals with people. Any form of ministry deals with people. And there are people who will really, really try to get to you. So it's always important that we always stay, in our state of importance, in our state of peace, in our state of, gentleness, and it's always important, because I remember was it last year or the year before? Usually coaching goes pretty well with me. Usually, I set all the rules, the parameters, and the kids really respond to it, and that's great. But I had this one team, like I had about 12 of them, and they were just complaining, arguing, fussing, cursing, all of this stuff. And I was like, Lord help me. It is, it's really hard trying to get them to just play together for one another, but also, because this is a Christian camp, and I need to, get the Lord in that somehow, and I have to have their attention. It was a very good challenge, but it was great. We had a good conversation afterwards, and actually, during the when I said bye to everyone, I shook one particular person's hand who was just pretty, was disrespectful, doing everything, everybody, all the coaches agreed, we really need to pray for this kid, so I shook his hand. I was like, good job, I'll be praying for you, so as he left, his mom, came up and was just goading at him, just saying how he didn't do this right, how he didn't do that right, like all of these hateful and bad things, how she was really pouring bad stuff into the kid. And I was like, Lord, I pretty much broke down. I was like, we see, the generation, but we don't see what they actually go through, so it's always important to know that what you do, and that's with people too, what you do for people, what you do for whatever your ministry, it's important that you maintain that Christ-like example, because they might be the only Christ-like example that will be in their lives. So
Amen.
Very good.
Amen. That's so good. Very good.
Very good. So we're going to continue. We may go a little bit longer, since it's okay with y'all.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this one is 1 Samuel 11. So I'm just going to just tell the story. It's 1 Samuel 11, and it's going to be let's see, 1 through 13. Let's see, 1 Samuel 11, 1 through 13, I guess. But anyway, this is the story of Saul, and he had fear. What happened was he was supposed to wait on the prophet Samuel to sacrifice, but he went instead and sacrificed himself. Then he also went out and disobeyed, and He was supposed to. He just made a big mistake. Okay.
Mhm.
And the reason why he said what he said, we'll go to the second. Let's see if I can find it here. All right. Okay. Let's see. Ah, find it here in a minute. Well, anyway, he said that he feared the people, and because he feared the people, he disobeyed God. All right. All right. So Saul was feared, and he lost the kingdom. Yeah.
That's chapter 13.
Yeah. He lost the kingdom. Yes, actually, Saul. Excuse me. 1 Samuel 11, 1 through 9. Okay. All right. Now, find out where I am. Because we want to jump around a little bit. Now we're going to talk about Cain. All right. And I'm just going to give the story of Cain, and then we'll get back to the scriptures. Okay. All right. Because there's one I really want to cover, but I won't really read. Now, Cain, of course, we understand how Cain messed up. And this, of course, is in Genesis. But Cain, he gave an offering to the Lord. Abel gave an offering to the Lord. Abel's offering was accepted. Cain's was not. And so Cain became angry with his brother. All right. One thing he was jealous and he was angry. All right. And it caused him to kill his brother. Remember, the enemy's going to do something to make you take action. And this action was that he killed his own brother. All right. And this was anger. And the Bible says, be angry, but sin not. All right. Be angry, but sin not. Now, this one I'm going to read. This is 2 Samuel 13. You know, the Bible is really real, okay? And if you really, it can do better than Hollywood, some of these stories, because of the realness of these stories, okay? So we're going to go to 2 Samuel 13, 1 through 17. Let's see here. Let me find it. Yes, this is it. Yeah. Okay. Are we there?
Yes.
And it came to pass after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister, that means beautiful, whose name was Tamar. And Amnon, the son of David, loved her. And Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shilmah, David's brother. And Jonadab was a very subtle man. Guess what? The enemy's getting ready to use this guy. All right. And said unto him, why art thou, being the king's son, lean from day to day? Wilt thou not tell me? And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. And Jonadab said unto him, lay thee down on thy bed and make thyself sick. And when thy father cometh to see thee, say unto him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come and give meat and dress the meat in my sight, that I may see it and eat at her hand. And Amnon lay down and made himself sick. And when the king was come to see him, Amnon unto said unto the king, I pray thee, let Tamar my sister come and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat at her hand. And David sent home to Tamar, saying, go now to thy brother Amnon's house and dress him meat. And Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was laid down. And she took flour and kneaded it and made cakes in his sight, and did bake the cakes. And she took a pan and poured them out before him, but he refused to eat. And Amnon said, have out all the men from me. And they went out, every man from him. And Amnon said unto Tamar, bring the meat into the chamber, that I may eat of thine hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them into the chamber to Amnon, her brother. And when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her, and he said unto her, come, lie with me, my sister. And she answered him, nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not this folly. And when and whither shall I cause my shame to go? And as for thee, thou shalt be as one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. Howbeit he will not hearken unto her, but being stronger than she, forced her and lay with her. And Amnon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. And Amnon said unto her, arise and be gone. Arise, be gone. And she said unto him, there is no cause. There is no cause. This evil in sending me away is greater than the other that thou didst unto me. But he would not hearken unto her. Then she called his servant that ministered unto him, and said, put now this woman out from me, and bolt the door after her. Wow. Isn't that? He loved her. He loved her so much he was sick for her. All right. And then he got this friend and said, well, make yourself even sicker. All right. And then have your father tell her to come. And so what happened? He loved her so much he took her. But after he took her, only God knows what happened. He hated her even more than he loved her. You know, feelings,
Lust. Is that like
lust. This is a type of it's a type of desire, evil desire for someone. All right, it's just an evil desire that turned to lust. He really did love her. All right, because he said he loved her. All right, but something happened. All right, so does anybody understand how the spirit realm works? I think I've said this before. Does anybody understand? Everybody understands. Before you do an act, all right, let's say if you're going to commit, now, if someone commits murder, all right, they don't just commit murder. Now, listen, was murder is an intentional killing someone, all right? So before they do the act, they have an emotion, all right, they have feelings, and then they justify. So what happens is a spirit of murder comes inside of them, and then they do the act. So a spirit of rape came inside of him, and he did that act. Now he has an evil spirit, and with the evil spirit, he hated her now more than he loved her, and it all was because of feelings. And another thing too, he also remember how the devil set it up. His friend gave him bad advice, and he took the advice of his friend.
I have a difficult and somewhat uncomfortable question. Um, Tamar, the woman, could she have done anything to prevent her from getting
No,
attacked?
no, because she said, well, maybe she could have, but the Bible said he was stronger than her. So she fought back. Now, maybe she should have screamed, but maybe it's an embarrassing situation for her. And she's even saying that, look, you know, her father would have given her to him. All right?
because he's a king.
Yeah, the king. The king would have did it. But he didn't want it anymore. Because he said that this would be worse, putting her away would be worse. Because in this area, in the kingdom, even though she did no wrong, she's going to suffer great shame. It's just the way it is. And of course you know, If you know the whole story, Absalom, her brother, got mad and ended up killing him. But it caused something in their family. It just was a big, big mess. And you think about it. He took the advice. He had these feelings, and he took the advice. Remember what you talked about? I believe you talked about walking in holiness. We have to understand who we're listening to. You have these feelings, okay, whatever they are. Now comes advice. All right, what is it? Advice coming from God, or is it coming from the enemy?
Amen.
Because you could be in a vulnerable place right now. Okay, who are you listening to? All right, you listen to the wrong person. Now let's continue because I do want to finish this. Now I want to go to okay. Yeah, yeah. I want to go to James chapter 5 verse 17 and Acts 14:15 because this is something we have to understand. So Nicholas, can you read James 5:17 and Hope, can you read Acts 14:15?
James
5:17
chapter 5 or 17.
and Hope Acts 14:15.
Elias was a man subject to like passions as we are, and he prayed earnestly that it might not rain, and it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months.
All right, now Hope.
Mhm. Acts chapter 14, verse 15, and saying, Sirs, why do ye these things? We also are men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities unto the living God, which made heaven and earth and the sea and all things that are therein.
Amen. And so read these two scriptures because they talk about light passions. We all have the same emotions. No one from our understanding or knowledge basically is born to do evil. I mean, of course, we're born in iniquity, we're born in a terrible situation, but every child is a great hope for every child to be something great, all right? So we all we all have to conquer the same passions, the same emotions. And so that's what these scriptures are saying. Elias was a normal man, all right? And it asks, so why are you doing these things? We are normal men. You're trying to put us up as gods or special people. We're just normal men, just like you. We all have to overcome these things, all right? And so when we look at someone who may have doing evil things or become evil, what happened was they changed. That in other words, they started living this life and making these bad decisions and did it continually over and over and over again until they changed until they are this evil person, you know, or this person that has these characteristics. Just an angry person, is angry all the time. That's their character. That's who they are. But they weren't born that way. All right, it was developed, and so we have to understand that we have to do the right thing. Even though these feelings may be great, we have to do the right things that will be changed. Because everyone here, you know you're mature. You have made good decisions. You could have did something. You may have felt like you wanted to argue, felt like you wanted to act out in the natural, but because you didn't, and because you did it consistently, now you're changed. You're stronger, and you're more like Christ. All right. So I'm gonna finish up by reading all these verses. Some of these have already been read. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? John 3:20. For our heart condemneth us. God is greater than our heart and knoweth all things. I'm telling you, if you feel a certain way, there's an adverse feeling that the word of God,
Amen.
throw it away. Or if your
Amen.
feeling is, throw it away. God is greater than your feeling, okay?
Amen.
All right?
Amen.
Okay, now, Proverbs 4, 14, 12, and 13. And see, some of these verses I already said. There is a way that seemeth right unto man, but the end thereof are the ways of death.
Yep.
All right, Proverbs 12, 15. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise. All right?
Mhm.
Isaiah 41:10. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, and I will help thee, and I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. So God does not want you to be overwhelmed when the enemy comes. When the enemy comes, and does these things, don't fear. God is with you. The enemy comes and does this thing. He doesn't want you to enter into fear or stress or frustration or nervousness or discouragement or any of those things. God is with you. Okay?
Amen.
All right. All right. And last few, Proverbs 29:11. A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterwards. You may feel mad and then you're just gonna fuss somebody out. No, you're not going to do that. I mean, like you say, the words that you're going to use are going to be wise words. The word, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Let's see. Ephesians 4:18. Having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of God through the ignorance that is in them because of the blindness of their heart. All right. The enemy's working in them, working in their emotions, all right, and blinding them. See, it is something that is happens over time. All right. Envy just doesn't darken right away. It happens over time, over time. And next thing you know, they just are it's just missing the whole thing because he has darkened their mind. All right. 1 John 2:15. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of God is not in him. All right. And finally, Hebrews 5:14. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, meaning maturity. Those who by reason of use of their senses exercise discern both good and evil. All right? Discern good and evil. Okay? You can't live by your feelings. The last thing is this. Remember we talked about God causing feelings? There's a certain times that, and we didn't read this, but there's a time when Saul was operating, in right standing with God. And something was going on where, I don't know if it was Philistines or the Canaanites, whatever, they were doing something. And Saul got angry, all right? He got angry and then won the battle. See, God can cause you to have this holy anger, all right? See, there's a holy anger, all right? That can come upon you, all right? And you go forth in boldness and do the will of God, all right? So understand when it's a bit understanding what you're operating in, okay? Understand what you're operating in. All right, that's going to be our Bible study for tonight. Amen. Any questions, comments? Amen. This is the enemy's weapon to cause you to feel bad, to cause you to feel a certain way.
Yep.
To cause you to feel a certain way. All right. So as you understand that, now you can win every time. Okay?
Amen.
All right, Pastor Alex.
That's right. Another scripture that I would add is Isaiah 59:19. It says, when the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
What was that? Isaiah.
Not 59.
59.
15.
19.
And so by that scripture, the last one I gave, you're not in this by yourself.
That's right.
You're not in this by yourself. God will help you. Are there any prayer requests or comments or anything before we call it a night? I know we went over a little bit, 20 minutes over.
You know, that was it's interesting. Like, I didn't know we were gonna talk about night, but it's like it's like I was on the way over to church, and all of a sudden it was like all these feelings trying to come. Like it was like some kind of weird like this discouragement or something that was just trying to come out of nowhere. I was like, okay, why am I starting to feel like this? And I was like, but it was like little subtle thoughts, little darts. If you're not paying attention to your thought processes or what's going on, it's like little stuff that try to hit your mind. And then like when I walked in here, I was like, it's like I sat down for a second. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I have the shield of faith. I know exactly what these things. These are little darts, and literally in the spirit realm, I saw when the shield was lifted. I saw all these flashes of light hit where the little darts were trying to come, and all of them scattered. And all of a sudden, and I was clear, and I was like, man, this is amazing.
Amen. Praise
Right.
God.
So then also we were talking about this. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Amen.
The Lord knows.
Praise God.
I felt today too. So I was like, same thing. I was like, and I'm blessed. I'm blessed and highly favored.
Amen. I was feeling down too, and I started speaking faith, and I felt the spirit of the Lord go, psh. And then I'm like, He wants you to speak faith no matter what. Speak faith.
Amen.
And His word is the truth.
That's right.
And cannot.
And one more thing before my mother speaks, just like you were saying with the promised land that, God has delivered them out of Egypt. When you actually count your blessings, like I was saying beforehand, you're focusing on one thing. With me, I was focusing on how tired and how tired my job was today. And, when I'll count my blessings, I was like, wow, I have a house, I have a car, I can walk, I can eat, I can do all of these things. And, God has tremendously blessed me. And I'm sitting here thinking about how one day wasn't as pleasant as it usually is, So, it's always, when you always shift your perspective, because no matter what state you're in, you're always blessed.
Amen.
You are always blessed. God's always there's always a blessing there that if you actually look and see it, it's there for you to be encouraged. Everybody put your hands up like this. You have hands, you have noses, you have all of these things, so thank God for it.
Yeah. No. Well, I'm just saying, you're right. But see, one thing that we always understand, everyone here has received Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior.
Amen.
So as you have received Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior, you are blessed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best thing that you could ever have is have your name written in the book of life. Because now, you are going to have an eternity with the Lord. Amen. And be very, very happy.
Amen. And something else? No matter what state you're in, it can always be worse.
So true.
It could be better, but it can always be worse. And so when He says, give thanks in all things, and I thought about that. I'm like, well, what if it's bad? I'm like, it could be worse. There's some people who don't even know how to recover. They don't even know to call on Jesus. Always give thanks.
Right. So we want to encourage you in the audience to just have faith, because so many things can be overwhelming. You may not be able to see your way out. You're feeling a certain way. Maybe you don't understand your feelings. Maybe you're even embarrassed to share your feelings. You don't want people to know. But with the Lord, He will help you. So if you don't talk to anybody else about it, take it to the Lord in prayer, and He will help you. Amen. All right. God bless you.
Amen.